Hello, everybody, and welcome to On to the Next. This is Jeff Jones, and with me is the hardcore On to the Next panel, Brian and Kelly. So why don't we say hi to Brian first? How you doing there, buddy?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. Sitting here
Absolutely.
watching the Lions and the Panthers preseason game.
Oh, well,
I know.
it's not too exciting then, huh?
Well, no. The Bears play tomorrow at 11
Pretty
a.m. Mountain Time, noon Central.
Well, awesome. Well, hopefully, we'll be done by the time the Bears play next. So that's a promise
Oh,
that I
yeah.
have to you, Brian.
Thank you.
And Kel, how are you doing? Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, everyone. I'm doing well. I'm actually mopping my floor as I'm talking. I had a very good friend come and surprise me late last night, rock up and just come to see me that I haven't seen for a while, and it was awesome. So we did some reminiscing and had a good giggle and laugh, and yeah. So I've got her sitting outside right now looking at the chickens, so I could run in, mop, and have a chat to you guys.
Well, we're glad to have you here, and that sounds awesome. But I think maybe you should pay it forward, and then now it's your job to go and surprise someone someday, and maybe go surprise Calf. Speaking of Calf,
next minute, surprise! I'm in Wisconsin.
Oh, geez, that would be a surprise, wouldn't it? Well, let's take a look over in chat and welcome everybody. We got Travis, Thadar Cloud. We have Just Rhonda. Great to see you. Just Rhonda's a member. Dark Side of the Moon. Awesome to have you here as always. And we have Alligator 57. Let's see here. Who else? Juke 11. Nice to see you in chat. And Colette M. Kansas Foxley, great to have you here. Who else do we got? Nan's Life 7, also a member of the channel. You can get some perks if you join up in the membership. So thank you for being here, members. TTM Fangirl, great to have you in chat as always. Let's see who else we got. Anthony D, awesome to have you here with us. Back again. And I think that's almost everybody. If I missed you, Kelly McAlien, nice to see you here with us. Always great to have you here. Mystic Jinx, welcome. I don't recall, also a member. A little shout out to all the members out there. Let's see here. Who else is? Lots of people. Behind the Magic, also another member. Great to see you guys here. If I missed you, I put Gloria. Great to have you, another member of the channel. And JJ Falk, also another member of the channel. Colette, I think I mentioned you. Allie's Softball Life, great to have you here. Rumor has it, another member. Our William, Jennifer Manning. Look at this. We got a lot of people in chat for you guys. So I'm sure a lot of us, hey JJ, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. So not much going on in the case this week. So I don't know if we even have anything to talk. I'm just kidding. Obviously, there was a lot that happened in the case this week. We had the denial from Judge Ange and the notice of appeal, which means that Kathleen Zellner has filed a motion saying that she and Stephen Avery, her client, will be filing an appeal to Judge Ange's denial. And I think a lot of people maybe in chat are here to talk about that. If not, if you have other questions, shoot them on in chat. We'll get to them as fast as we can. It's great to have everybody here. Looks like Kaboom is here. Awesome to have you as well. And, well, I guess I can open it up to either one of you if you guys have any general comments as to, what did we see in the denial that we may have expected, maybe didn't expect? How do we feel? I don't know. Feelings. See, this is the problem. Feelings don't really matter, do they, guys? Like, I have a feeling that I'm disappointed, but that, my feelings don't really come into the law very often, do they? Because when you rule on the law and things. So I think that's where I have a little bit of issues myself, because I feel a little, beat down from the denial, even though maybe I'm not surprised by it. So I don't know, whatever you guys, your first comments, just share them if you want.
Well, I'm definitely not surprised by it. I think everybody kind of expected Judge Ange to deny it, and so it's really just a matter of what the Court of Appeals has to say. I know Kel understands it a lot better than I do. Um, I'm not I'm not 100% that I still feel, as much as I wish Swinsky didn't say that he saw Bobby, I'm still not 100% convinced that the Court of Appeals won't grant an evidentiary hearing of sorts from him. But I'm not sure. Kel probably has more opinions than I do about it, and that I'm sure. But I don't know. It really, like, at the end of the day, it really boils down to, like I've said again and again and again. I just I don't think that Bobby separates enough from Steven. I think Steven said that he saw Teresa leave the property, turn left, and I think you got to find somebody off the property. And that, however, in this particular instance, we're arguing Denny, in which case Denny is probably Bobby's about the only person you could probably argue and get all three prongs maybe with, I think. So I don't know. It's a tough call.
Yeah, it's a rough one. I just wanted to hit a couple comments here.
Oh, I will say real quick. I will
ahead.
say real quick. If I truly thought Bobby did it, I would be more than willing to say that Bobby did it. I don't see the evidence. I don't see I don't see how you take the evidence that convicted Steven and turn it around and just say, well, Bobby must have followed her out of the yard, and then Bobby must have got her to somehow stop, and then Bobby got her to, hit her over the head with God only knows what, one thing. Oh, I will bring this up too, because Judge Ann kind of mentioned it. She mentions it a little bit in her decision that she kind of like, you want to put the porn on Bobby, that's fine, but why isn't there a witness of sorts that isn't putting Bobby, sitting at the computer? And I've never really gone that far because I don't really care who looked at the porn. I feel like they all looked at used that computer. I don't think there's really. I mean, you listen to Steven's phone calls and it's pretty obvious that they all did. Whether it was in Bobby's room or not, doesn't matter. But what has always kind of bugged me about Sawinski, and then if you want to throw Baresh in, fine, but even Blaine a little bit. Blaine comes closest to actually putting Bobby, because he says that he saw Bobby on the October 31st on the school bus driving a bluish green vehicle. And then the day later, he says it was the green Ford Ranger that Bobby didn't get until January. So maybe Blaine is confused about Bobby didn't have green Ford Ranger on October 31st. I don't know how that works, but Sawinski has no reason whatsoever to recognize Bobby in 2005, and so you've got all these things that you want to accuse Bobby of murder and all that, and yet there's no witness. And I wish Zellner would get a witness that would kind of just, whether it be a classmate, a co-worker, Blaine, Brian, a cousin, anybody that could even put Bobby, give him like the potential, because he has no criminal record. He has nothing to suggest that he's capable of this, period. And that's kind of, I think that's kind of where Ange was going a little bit with the, I think she just kind of touched on the porn, which is whatever, but I don't know. It's always kind of bugged me that there's, I mean, all these witnesses are coming forward, but yet they all watched Mam, basically. It's like, oh, well, I mean, I watched Mam too, and I could have swore Scott Taddock did it. You know what I mean? Because he's such a
okay.
You know what I mean? but now I look for it and it's like, where's Scott? Like, he's not even on the property. So I don't know. He's kind of scratched him off. He's still an odd duck, but whatever. Is not all of us are as cool as me, but.
No,
it's straightforward. Yeah. Anyway, well, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I just wish she had.
I would invoke
someone to back up Sawinski. I guess that wasn't Baresh, basically. I guess.
I see. Yeah, I would back up. When we're talking about who we actually think maybe have done it, I would back up and maybe invoke Big Jeff and use his 50,000 foot view. What's your 50,000 foot view of this case? If you're just looking at the overview of it and you say. And I take that and I go, if I'm going to bet on it in Las Vegas and there's a bet and you can win money, I'm betting on law enforcement. I'm sorry. They are capable of doing it. They are the ones who had training in blood work. They are the ones who had blood kits in their squad cars. They are the ones that had the $36 million lawsuit. They're the ones that planted the key. They're the ones that planted the bullet. Now, why would I say must be Bobby? Sorry, I just don't. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I just don't feel that way, and I just keep moving closer and closer to law enforcement. I don't know. It just seems more likely that they're the ones that benefited from the crime, so it's likely they're the ones that committed the crime. And I'm not saying. Let me clarify that. Let me be really clear. I also don't really believe in a giant conspiracy. I believe in the lone wolf kind of theory, where someone who is a key player in there did things on their own, maybe, and didn't have some giant meeting in a back room, smoky room about what we're going to do about Stephen Avery. They took it upon themselves, and they moved things, and they planted evidence. And I think maybe it's possible a couple other officers piled on here and there. So that's just
I agree
I'm
100%.
Yeah.
I think I agree 100%. I know I've said this before too, maybe not here, but either way, I think, and I do appreciate Kaboom pointing that out too. That Zellner's not trying to prove Bobby guilty, and I was kind of trying to say that too. Again, if you're gonna pick a Denny suspect, I mean, again, Bobby's kind of the one that you can get all three.
As long as you say that, do you mind if I just ask you why wouldn't Chuck be a good Denny suspect? In his original statement, he said he saw her that day.
True.
He said he saw her and Stephen go to Stephen's trailer together. That's what he said.
Right. He wasn't
sure if they went. That's what Chuck said. So why can't you connect him as a Denny? Someone who also said they saw her that day. You know what I'm saying? Like Chuck also has, whether it's, whether we have the documentation or not, he has more of a record than Bobby. And I just
absolutely.
There's other people that say, why not Martinez? Why not Fabian? These people were on the property that. So anyway,
I like Fabian too. I think any of them at that point. I mean, honestly, you just got to find it. You just got to get the three prongs.
The three prongs. Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
I
think with Chuck, I think you can probably use his criminal record as a motive. I mean, perhaps.
Partly, I feel like Zawinski fell in Zellner's lap. It kind of happened. She didn't expect it. It just kind of happened, and it was either you take it now or you lose it. It's either use it or lose it, right? And I think she's like, well, with I think it's worth the evidence is good enough to go this route, and I think that's, for me, that's how I see it. I do want to hit couple comments before we either you keep going or we move over to Kel, but just wanted to address. I think Duke is saying what I said before. Feelings can be motivating. I think that's a really good point. I still want to stay clear-eyed about it. Let's see here. What else? I like this one from Kelly. She says, KZ says, on to the next. And I think that's kind of accurate. Let's see here. What else? We got some comments. And I think this is a question that is worth addressing, and that is, can KZ add anything to the appeal court other than what Judge S has ruled on? No. I don't think so.
No, if she were to get new evidence now before the Court of Appeals rules on it, Kel, correct me if I'm wrong, then she'll withdraw it and go back down to the circuit court and present it to the circuit court. The whole process will start over without a ruling from the Court of Appeals.
Yeah, she'd have to start a new petition to add it in, and she'd have to put a stay on.
Well, Kel just dropped out, but I think we got caught what she said, and that is you'd have to put a stay on that, and she's basically just affirming what you just said, Brian, and that you'd have to start all the way back over in the beginning, which, who knows? I mean, what if some really good piece of evidence arrived soon? It's possible. So, but I think it would have to be a new, like you said, a new filing that would start all the way in the beginning. Oh, French Wrecking Crew's here. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thank you. Nan's Life says, KZ isn't trying to prove Bobby guilty. She's required to use the prongs required by Denny. That's absolutely correct. 100%. See here. Just want to just want to check and see that I got everybody. Serena, nice to see you with us today. Oh, Kelly is back. Who else? Anthony D, I think I saw you already, but nice to see you again.
Sorry, guys. I lost reception.
No, it's all right. I'm trying to get caught up on the comments and see if there's any questions. If I missed one, guys, I apologize. I'll try to.
Did I come across? Did I speak at all? Did you guys hear me at all, or did I just cut straight out?
Yeah, we heard you agree with me, and that was all we needed.
That's all we needed. Just agree with Brian, and life is so much easier for us.
Well, unless I'm wrong.
That's fine.
I was wrong once. It's all good.
Oh, Millbilly's here. Hey, Millbilly. Who else we got here? I think that's everybody. Let me check some questions. But Kel, if you had any comments now that you're back, floor is yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm actually working on stuff with Travis at the moment. We're going through the appeal and obviously dissecting it and having a look, which we're putting it together, and most likely we'll be addressing this on I think it's foul play open mic. Basically, in a nutshell, I'm not going to speak on behalf of Travis because he's got his own, but I'll just go off when I first read it. When I first read it, well, firstly, I skimmed it because it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I kind of laid there, and I didn't actually get back to sleep, but I didn't really put much into it. I just kind of skimmed it, saw the denial, and was like, shocked, not shocked. There was nothing in me that was like, you know what, to the honesty, I wasn't even disappointed because I just knew, and I've said this repetitively, and I know that a lot of people have the same opinion and share the same thoughts, is I always believed that KZ wrote this for the courts of appeal. She always knew it was going to go there. So she didn't give a fuck. She just knew that there was a process she had to go through, and she was just waiting for that to expire and get past it and then move on to the next. I will say one thing, and this is, take it as you want. I'm not a fucking guilter by saying this, but this is my opinion, because I went back, and when I did finally take a chance to sit down and kind of digest it, and I did it, I broke it up. I went in with my highlighter. Shut up, Ziggy. I went in with my highlighter, and because as you guys know, I do everything kind of on paper. I print everything out and then go through. Yeah.
Little sidebar, quick, Kel. If you guys see Kel and the highlighter together, just get out of her way, okay? Just run. That's what I say. Don't get in between Kel and her highlighter.
So basically, all I did was because the way she like formatted it, I looked at it and I was like, interesting, because she kind of the first thing she did was I noticed was she makes in her introduction, she makes a very not a strong point, but she just makes the court point that she wasn't going to go into the backstory of this whole entire case, because she says it's been done in many motions. I'm only addressing the motion and the responses that have been put forward to me in this moment. So I knew that she was obviously going to keep between those. She was meant to be keeping between those four corners, because that's what she said. I'm just focusing on these. I'm not going beyond that. Blah 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 blah, which is legally what she's meant to do, right? So then when the way she laid it out, she was kind of like going. She would go the analysis, and then she kind of goes. So she would lay out the defense like points, like the defense claims Bobby meets the standards of Denny because, and then she kind of laid it out. And then so I color coordinated and highlighted. So that was when she would be speaking on behalf of the defendant. So for Stephen, I gave him yellow. And then she would kind of have her opinion in it. So I'd put it in blue. And then she would go, and the state objects to that. So she kind of kept it in like that motion order of what Kathleen had presented versus what the state said. And then she would have her opinion. When I went back and I had a look, and I kind of wanted to look at it from an outside looking in, I will say this: she addressed KZ more than she touches the state opinion. Now, that's not saying anything in terms of anything, because theoretically she ended up siding with them. But I'm just saying she doesn't point out as much as what they were trying to get across versus how much she put into more answering KZ, if that makes sense. So I thought that was just the whole structure of it was quite interesting. And I literally, my takeaway was, and I think I told you guys and I told a few others because we were on a call. This obviously with a lot of people here, this discussion has happened quite a lot throughout the channels and the platforms, and everyone's kind of having an opinion. I honestly believe that, when I say KZ wrote it for courts of appeal, I think Angela wrote it for the courts of appeal as well, because she knows they're going to be heavily looking at this one. And the reason why I say that is because this is not make or break for KZ, but it could slow the process up a lot for her if this gets denied as well, and then no new evidence comes about, because let's face it, without new evidence, KZ can't move forward. So
if it's denied,
if it gets denied, well, you're in limbo in a sense, aren't you, until something new comes available, and then you can file a new 97.4.06. Because unless she goes federal or state, unless she applies to go even higher than that, but the state won't touch it, and she said she'll never knock on the federal door. She'll just keep on knocking on Wisconsin until they answer. She even wrote that in the last tweet. We're not going away. She just needs new evidence to keep being provided or discovered.
Go ahead.
So I just thought that the way she wrote it, so when I went back and looked at the layout and how she addressed it, I thought she had done something that she didn't quite do last time. Last time her half-assed response was like very minimal. It was done very quickly, and she hid behind, and I'm going to say that very bluntly, she hid behind the procedural barring law and used it to apply to just deny. This one didn't have that. She had to either apply law or look at it in a merit kind of way. And when me and Travis we both skimmed it together and started looking at it, it appears by face value she's finally given KZ what KZ actually complained about her for not doing the last time, and that was to apply both. Now, is there errors? Fucking oath there's errors. Is there things that could be used as an appeal? Yes, there is. But there was also other stuff in the last one that could be used as an appeal, but it never made it. So it is literally going to be up to the discretion of the courts of appeal. The one thing that I will point out as well is that, and I know you guys know that I'm exhausted talking about it, because the amount of times I've read this one paragraph out from the courts of appeal throughout discussing a murder, and the amount of times I have got even poor Big Jeff to do it on my behalf, because I'm like, please, just someone else, because I've got a feeling they're going to touch on this. And it was. The state had applied the exhibit of a courts of appeal motion, the denial again, as their kind of, hey, Ange, have a look at this. They've already had an opinion on this. And she reverts back to it and says, the courts of appeal have already decided, and their opinion was in favor of such and such. And that's why when I used to read it out, I'm like, it's really important, guys, because they've already made a decision, so that when it comes back to them, they're going to have two choices. They're either going to have to own that they were wrong, and now they have the advantage and the opportunity to correct themselves and go, you know what, we did think it was wrong back then. No, we did think it was our decision back then, but now that you have produced more stuff, you know what, we can see where you're going with it. So now that decision back then was moot, so we can bypass that. Or they're going to stick by it and go, no, we still believe what we believed back then. The opinion is still that the DASI computer was always going to be irrelevant. And that's basically in a nutshell where I kind of got from this rejection. And then when you weigh in with the courts of appeal have already looked at the DASI computer. They didn't look at it as a Denny motion thing. They looked at it as a Brady. You got to remember, Kathleen has introduced the DASI computer as a Brady before, and it got knocked down. And when they made their opinion, they based it on that. So now Kathleen has introduced it as part of the Denny. So it isn't procedurally barred, and it can be reviewed again. But their opinion back as even a Brady was that the content that was seen prior to, not after the murder, prior to, which establishes motive, does not in their opinion, does not have any relevance to the actual crime of Teresa Halbach. And that's when Kathleen has added the Dressler case. Now, the Dressler case, I'm pretty sure we've all talked about it before, but there is the citing of it has a really direct connection to why it became a motive, and it was established a motive for them. Not only did they, in the content of Dressler, and apologies if I'm saying that wrong, I just call it the Dressler case, he was the sole operator of that computer. There was no doubt that he was the only person. On top of that, the searches prior to the crime that he committed mirrored, and that's the key word, because that gets used a bit in courts of appeal, and I believe even Ange uses it, mirrored what the crime was with his victim. And then lastly, the tools and the method that the victim was, was unalived in, they found that exact stuff in his residence. So that became a direct connection as well. This situation, we have everyone stating it is the family computer. And like Brian was saying at the very, very beginning, we have we have Stephen on the phone call, not just saying, it'd be different if we had Stephen on phone calls, and we've been through this, it's not just one, it's several. He's telling a lot of people that there's something on this computer, and he's not saying it's Bobby. No, he's saying it's all your boys is sex, and that computer. Blaine, Brendan and Bobby. So he has put them all in front of that computer. So the little snippet from Angela saying, we could just, all you would have had to do was just have someone say he was there. That is, I guess, I understand it, but it doesn't quite make sense, because I think that KZ could have presented it in another way, which she has, but that's what her standard clearly was. And that's what the Court of Appeal is going to do, is see whether that standard is met via what Ange says or what Kathleen has produced. And this is why I went into such a deep dive with the DASI computer. Now you all know, because I knew the relevance of it. I knew how fucking important that DASI computer shit was, because it needed to establish motive. It was one of the things that Kathleen was essentially lacking in 2000. No, my apology, not Kathleen. The trial was lacking in 2010. At trial, when they had the Denny, they were achieving opportunity and direct connection. Even Willis said it, but they never had the motive. So KZ needs that DASI computer to become Bobby's motive, and only Bobby's motive. So the moment you add it could have been Bobby or it could have been someone else, that motive glue has untouched a little bit, because that's what Ange is ultimately saying. You haven't conclusively shown me it's his motive. Show me it's his motive. Now that's going to be up for appeal. Do the Court of Appeal believe that KZ did reach it? And Kaboom, from what you guys read to me, he's right. KZ doesn't have to prove it. He doesn't have to prove Bobby did it. In fact, that's the issue. Neither does Ange. Ange doesn't have to read that and say, Bobby did it. That's not her job either. She doesn't have the authority to rule him guilty either. She has to rule on the fact, did Kathleen eliminate or kind of bring reasonable doubt, in a sense, that her client did. And that's the one thing that Brian has repeated just a few minutes ago, is where's the separation? And Travis even said it on the open mic the other few weeks ago. The problem with any DASI or Avery being connected to this, it doesn't disconnect Stephen Avery to the crime. You need someone at this point almost like Martinez guy, so that when if his DNA, a foreign DNA popped up and you kind of go, well, that shouldn't be there. Why is that there? That would be more of a direct connection and a new opening. Now, again, I'm with you guys. I'm in limbo. I don't know what's going to happen next. I know what we all think should happen next, but like that little fuzzy part at the beginning, our feelings don't mean shit to the court. It means enough for us in the community. We keep hope. We keep searching, we keep moving forward together, but ultimately what we think does not weigh into the court.
Right.
I hope
Yeah.
that helped.
No, it does. And there's a bunch of questions that I want you to maybe do quickly if you can, Kel. But first, want to welcome Jack. Welcome back, buddy. Hey, Jack.
What up? What up?
What up? What
What
up?
up, Jack?
How we doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Me too.
Hold it.
I'm doing great. I took a big nap after dinner.
That'll happen. Big nap after a big dinner, I bet, huh?
Yeah,
We're-
well, big enough. Yeah.
Big enough to put you down. Yeah.
He's good.
So I guess as long as we got you here right now, Jack, we can we just kind of like went over our first initial thoughts of it, or what was, I think I brought up the issue earlier about like how it makes me feel, and what I feel it should be, and what the law is are two different things. And we got a couple questions to go yet here, but if you want to drop in some quick comments right now about your take on it.
Well, it's not unexpected, I guess, is number one. I figured she would deny the deal, and there's just sections of it and the way she talks that it's a little befuzzling to me how she can, and she did it actually a few times. And I'm not saying that Bobby did a damn thing at all. I'm not saying that. It could be anyone. It didn't have to be Bobby. It could be whoever, Joe the Martian. But to make this statement that it doesn't really matter if someone had the RAV allegedly days after this murder, it doesn't matter. Well, yeah, logically it really kind of does.
Yeah.
And I just have to. This alignment of logic doesn't flow, and there's no connector that she really went to. So I guess that was probably one of my biggest takeaways. She did make some factual errors, which I guess that whatever. I guess that's not such a big deal in the eyes of the court these days. But to me, it kind of is, because this has been around for a long time. She has all the information that we've got. So why she would make those factual errors is a little surprising. But I doubt that the Court of Appeals will even bat an eye at that too much. So
I tend to agree with you there.
I guess right off the bat, that's my biggest takeaways. Not surprised, and I couldn't really follow her logic, and especially about the RAV. And again, it doesn't matter who would have her vehicle allegedly days after this event, and to not question it, to say, well, it didn't really matter, and that doesn't prove nobody saw him with the key. Well, number one,
it sounds like Ange is saying, if we're going to have a hearing, it's because the Court of Appeals is going to force me to have a hearing. Otherwise, we're not having a hearing. Like, I just feel like that would be
at the end of the day.
Posture.
Yeah, at the end of the day. Yep, that's right. End of the day, that's exactly right. Unless they make me, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I think it goes, because I agree 100% what you're saying, JJ. I 100%. Doesn't make any sense. If somebody had the RAV, they're probably involved. I was telling Jeff before we started a little bit. I mean, I think at this point, I think it's fair to say that Judge Angie probably feels that Stephen is 115% guilty of the crime. Because I again agree exactly what you're saying. Like, some of the logic that she says doesn't make any sense. And so all I can think is that at this point, all these years later, I think she feels that Bobby and Barb and Blaine and Brian and Chuck and Earl and some of these people that are close to Stephen, like, they probably do know what happened, and maybe some of them were somewhat involved a little bit at the end of the day. And at this point, she just doesn't care. It's like, what, we got Brendan, we got Steve. Because I like Buting's tweet too, to the fact that, well, why is she bringing Brendan to this? Stephen wasn't convicted on anything Brendan said, this and that. And so I don't know. That's all I can really think as far as like you say, not making excuses for her logic, because I still don't believe in her logic. I at this point, that's all I can think of, is that she's like, I don't care if Bobby had the RAV, because he probably did at one point. Like, they probably all know what happened. Basically, they all know Stephen did it. I'm just not dealing with this at this point. But
yeah,
then she put it in 31 pages.
Yeah, for her logic, yeah.
But didn't we already say this? didn't we already agree, all of us, in terms of the way we've all had a discussion, that there is no way they're going to trade Stephen for Bobby? They'll always just include him. And that's basically where we're at. This should not be a shock. Logical, not logical. It was something that we all knew should, like, if you're going to object, you're going to object and you're going to add versus take away or swap out. It was something that was always in the cards. And I agree. Logically, it makes no sense. But even Travis has to remind me constantly that logic in the courtroom is different to the logic that you believe. They have their own language, their own rules, their own understandings, and what seems logical to us is in the court. It is not. It's a different level. And it took me a while to understand that, because I'm like, that logically makes no sense. And I'm like, I pride myself on being logical. And he goes, because your logic in the real world doesn't apply in the courtroom, because we have our own thing. And I was like, that makes sense. It's the layman terms that they like, the language they use and how they use it. The thing is, everyone said, KZ doesn't have to prove Bobby did it. And it's so true, but then you go on that logical side and you go, but him having the car, but that's what Angie's saying. Logically, if you want to go there, him having the car after the fact still doesn't take away Stephen Avery. If the state was going to object, like, to say something to this, and you know how I always play the devil's advocate, and I always insert myself into the thoughts of the other side, because that way I can keep myself in front with what could be coming next. I listened to a call recently, and I'm going to talk about it if you guys don't mind. It's very quick, but it's going to get me to my point. But the point is, there's a call between Candy Avery and Brendan Dassey, and I believe Barb's there. So there's three of them. But Barb's in the background and Candy's leading this phone call. They're talking away, and Brendan's obviously saying, I didn't do nothing. I literally, didn't do anything. I was confused, rah, rah, rah. And then Candy, from what I can hear, she's actually making a lot of sense. Like, she's telling him to stop talking to people, that he doesn't have to. And she's just giving him some pretty sound legal advice. And I know everyone's like, so what? It's Candy. But you listen to this call, it'd be something advice that I think we would all have given him. It was logical, it made sense, and it was guiding him to make sure he didn't get himself into any more mischief, basically. So my point is, though, everyone goes on about the $36 million, and why would he do this? He was getting $36 million, rah, rah, rah. The issue with this phone call is, in it, Candy's telling Brendan that Stephen was using the money he was getting as a bribe to keep her other girls quiet, to sneak around and catch up with Marie behind everyone's back. And Brendan turns around and goes, yeah, he's been promising me things too. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, who cares? He's a good uncle. He fucking either wants to give to his family. Why is this an issue? But the way Candy, obviously presenting it over the phone call, she's saying that he's using the money as hush money to get what he wants, to do something that was in her mind inappropriate with her daughter. So the reason why, if you want to link it back to the now, is find me a reason why that they can't turn around and say Stephen offered Bobby a chunk of the money to help him clean up his mess after the murder while he was in Crivets. This is what I'm saying about, that's why logically it makes no sense why it would not do anything for Stephen Avery, that if Bobby had it, but it doesn't take Stephen out of the equation. They're saying Stephen still could have done the crime.
Zawinski excluded Brendan, but he never excluded Stephen, right? Because he said some guy reaching,
not specifically.
Not specifically. Had he done that specifically, would that be different?
I think it would be. I think it would definitely help. But again, my issue with Swinski is not that he saw, two people pushing a vehicle. My issue's always been, was it the Rav? Sure, it could have been. And was it actually Bobby? That's again, I wish he would have just kept it with like, hey, I saw two people pushing a vehicle, and I feel it was the Rav, and this is why I think it's the Rav. Blah 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 blah. And one of them could have been Bobby, but it definitely wasn't Steven. Definitely wasn't Brendan. You know what I mean? Like, but instead he like positively identifies Bobby, which is fine. But then there's nothing really to back that up. Like there's no reason as to why, other than well, when I watched Man 2 in 2018, I realized it was Bobby Dassey. It's like, oh my God, 13 years later, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean,
Well,
again,
whether you believe that or
it's always
not,
been my issue with.
the truth
Well, no,
is,
it's
the
not
court
that
would eat that up. The court, a prosecutor would eat that alive. You know what I mean? Like, whether you believe he knows it's Bobby or not, like you said,
well, he probably truly does. He probably truly does believe that he saw
Right.
Bobby at this point.
Sure.
But and that's what I'm saying. I wish we could get
argument
another
against
witness that would actually come forward, that would actually have a reason to know. And that's, I mean, and I know what I did listen to that call. I know what called Kel's referring to also, and that's the other thing that's kind of always not always bugged me, but a little bit with Steven and even versus Barb, because you know Barb comes on here all the time and she says Andres Martinez was on the yard like 12 times that week, which is awesome. I don't know that Andres Martinez necessarily did it, but my God, just back to Kel's earlier point, you put Andres Martinez in that vehicle or on somewhere like that on the evidence wise, I mean, then he's a lot harder to connect to Steven than Bobby or Chuck or Earl or anyone. But she's telling Brendan in that same phone call that, you know, Steven thinks me and Earl did it, you know, and this and that, which is, I mean, it's fair, especially at the time, especially with Earl. But I mean, maybe he did do it. I don't know, you know what I mean? But it's like I wish Steven would just throw one person out that's not related to him. Just as a possibility. I'm not saying that. I mean, I don't think. You know what I mean. I don't think any of us know exactly who did it, but you know, but Barb's always, you know, she pointed at the hall box. I think she pointed at Hilgis once or twice. She's always constantly pointing at Andres Martinez, and I mean, I give her credit there. She's not pointing fingers at the family. And again, it's not. I just don't think. I don't know. I think it's a way bigger cover up than it is than the Averys or Dasseys are capable of. You know what I mean? I'm kind of with you, Jeff. I mean, at this point, I'd say Cool Streak did it in a heartbeat. I mean,
it fits like that. You know, as I say, 50,000 view of the case, 50,000 foot view of the case. You're like, you know, you just take the biggest issues, and you go, oh, well, it
him like or Vogel or you know,
mowed over, you know, whatever you want to say. So, but I do want to hit some questions because there's so many good ones. But you guys, I didn't want to interrupt the discussion because it's been going so well. But let's see if we can address a couple of these. The first one that's been sitting here for about 15 minutes. Could she, as in KZ, elaborate more than she did with what she's addressed with the lower courts? Not in this appeal, I don't believe. Anyone want to back me up on that? Like we said earlier.
Yeah, I can back you up on it. I think she can. Okay, I think she can argue it a little bit. I think she can argue it, or not argue it. I think she can present it a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the exact same. She can't bring anything new to the Court of Appeals.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, I think this is going to be her best write up like ever. I think, believe it's going to be phenomenal. The way she structures it, the way she writes it to the Courts of Appeal, she's going to layer it out very, very straightforward to show her arguments and what can be what she's feeling needs to be appealed in terms of Angie's decision. And I think she's going to make very, very strong points. And that is the strength of KZ. She is a warrior when it comes to writing motions. That is actually one of her assets. She's not so much a trial lawyer. She's not so much, you know, she's obviously successful when she has to do it, but her strength comes from motions. She has done a lot of her cases have become made most of their movements because of the motions themselves, because how compelling and well written they are. Unfortunately, what she used to work for her for other cases, these courts don't seem to buy the same level of standards that she usually applies that usually work. And I think that's why a lot of people are like, how much then do you need to show? Because hasn't she reached the standard of Denny? And I think that is the main objection she's going to go in there for with the Courts of Appeal. She's going to say, you guys gave me the door and help, you guys guided me the way to walk through it. I went back, I did everything you said, I've now presented it, and I still got denied after you guys were the ones that said this is how you should basically go forward with this. So I think her argument is going to be a lot based on that, because what is the standard for Denny? And how did she not reach it? And then the other thing is, when I was reading it, I think I think I always knew the motive part was going to be one of her hardest burdens because of that unbalancing of, is it Bobby's motive? Could it have been someone else? The state had only produced a records of the school calendar to produce other variables. That's all they had to show. There's other variables here that she didn't even take into consideration that shows that it coincides with what she's alleging is only Bobby. So they've only given her like a smidge of that to show that, hey, you didn't even take this in. So I always knew motive was the hardest one, but she actually got denied, and ultimately denied her on all three prongs. She not only said the motive got lost, she said you still didn't reach opportunity, yet you still didn't reach direct connection, which I literally did scratch my head and go, hang on, how could you have reached the bar in 2006 and 2006 and 2010 with Willis, who already established that there was most likely the other two prongs met, but it wasn't lacking motive. But now we've gone further, she's produced more, and we've gone backwards to now having none. And I think that is what the strength is for KZ, because she can now, and because the strength is, KZ actually added that in her motion. She already pointed out that the only thing that was lacking was motive. And now she's going to say to them, I'm assuming, hey, I already had the two connections. And now how do I end up with none? What the hell's going on? So these are all the arguments that she has advantage of. Pardon?
Yeah, that's a really strong point in an appeals court, because that's what the appeals court is set in there to do, right? Like, this is one of the points. There's a couple things I wanted to add quickly. And one is, KZ's also a deal maker. You said like she's really good at making motions. You have to remember, I was looking at a couple of other cases, and it says like Kathleen Zellner persuaded prosecutors to give her the evidence, right? What does that mean? That means it was a deal, right? And she did that in this case as well. Didn't she make a deal to get a hold of the bullet?
She was doing at the very beginning when she did requests for forensic testing, and that's when she got stiffed, and that's when the whole pro se motion thing kind of comes into play, because they made her believe that she was going to obtain the RAV and all this stuff through that meeting with Fallon, and then then Ange ruled. And then they were like, basically like, oh, well, the decision was made. I don't have to do shit no more.
Yeah. She was trying to make a deal and she got burned, right? Yeah, that's basically kind of what happened. There's one other point that I wanted to ask or put it out there, and that is, as far as I understand how the Court of Appeals and, the Supreme Court, whether it's at the state or, they are looking, like when they pick their cases, they're picking cases that it's not just based on the case, but it's also based on, especially when you get to the Supreme Court, like specifically in Wisconsin Supreme Court, if they were to ever get this case, they're looking for things not only on the merits of the case, but also would it affect case law, right? And this is what we kept hearing in the state Supreme Court in Brendan's case. And they kept saying, you want to write new case law, right? Like that's what you're trying to do. And so they are very, maybe I'm wrong, but this is kind of how I have interpreted over the years, that when they pick cases based on, they know the outcome could affect other cases. So they're very selective on the ones that they rule on. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. So I add that in. Okay, maybe I'm off my rocker on that a little bit, but I think it's not just like when you're in the circuit court, it's just the facts and did this happen and this, and we're looking at the case. But we're the further you get up into the appeals, it's not just about the case, it's about the process, right? Like they're going to try to get Ange on some process arguments. They're going to try to say she denied it on the wrong ruling, right? And so what happened in the case is kind of secondary. Anyway, we'll hit to some questions here. There's quite a few good ones. This is coming from Travis Kemp, and it says, with all things, and I think this is a really good one if I'm understanding it correctly, with all things considered, how do some judges not seriously look at this case, judging it by the sum of its parts, or in the case of the sum of all the man miracles, right? So I think that's kind of in line with what my previous comments about you're making judges on the sum of its parts. I'll just read that again. With all things considered, how does some judge not seriously look at this case, judging it by the sum of its parts? I think because that's the direct appeal, and the direct appeal is over, right? Because we're in post-conviction, it's a different beast. Is that correct? You guys with me on that, or you want to correct my?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Travis also went through this. This is why he was really it was phenomenal when he went through that at the on open mic, because he gave you guys the levels of what comes first, one comes next, and that's when he reminded everyone that Stephen actually has had an evidentiary hearing before. He had one as the direct appeal level when he first came, straight after the trial. So he was actually granted it, and that's when Travis was in a summary. And this is paraphrasing because of this, and again, my interpretation of, I hope I understood what he was saying to us, but it was more the fact that when he had the direct appeal and then he had the evidentiary hearing, each level has its own four corners that you can argue. You can only go between like certain arguments, like your Brady's, your ineffective counsels, and your Denny's and stuff. And he had that. So he's already also had another chance of that, and then he was denied. He lost that. So that's pretty much the process you're talking about as well, Jeff. It's because we're in post-conviction. Travis said to me, it eliminates again another layer of that. The four corners gets tighter because you've had all these other opportunities to raise all these things prior. Now you're at the level of it needs to be new, that wasn't available to any of those other processes. And that's why it's one of the, obviously post convictions are very harder standard, I guess, because otherwise you'd be having every actual real guilty people trying to fill up the courts with motion after motion. If the standard wasn't so, it was a little bit more flimsy for certain arguments to come through that have already been raised before.
Okay, got another one, and that is maybe she has evidence and she's keeping it as her plan B.
I'd highly doubt it. If she does, she's probably procedurally barring herself because if you're going to, because when you have new evidence, you have to apply that new evidence, and the state have called her out for that. Like they want to know, how did Tom Skowinski get into it, and what date was that? Why couldn't this have been raised back in all these other appeals then? That's what post-conviction, that's the standard of post-conviction. It has to be new. And if you're sitting on something, the only way she could probably have something potentially, how I've interpreted it, is if she hasn't developed it enough yet. And that's why she hasn't put it on record, because she hasn't vetted it enough and she's investigating it. And then but the chances of that, especially if it connects to this Denny argument, because if this Denny argument gets seen all the way through and denied or whatever, and you haven't added it, you can't just add it later, because they'll go, well, we never ruled on it. We never knew it existed. And it's meant to be in the court of law that nothing is a secret. You have to produce everything you got, because the other side has an equal right to be able to oppose it. Now, we all kind of snigger at that because we're all like, yeah, it's real funny. That's the standard. Yet back in the trial of Stephen Avery, that never existed. Where was that standard when they held the DASI computer in Fassbender's office or desk for 6-7 years or whatever it was? But that is ultimately how it's meant to go. So if she has been holding onto something and she hasn't attached it already, there's the chances of being able to do it later. She's just hurting herself because she won't be able to produce it, because they'll say, no, you had an opportunity to attach it to your Denny motion. We heard the whole Denny motion in its entirety. We ruled on the argument in its entirety, and we're not doing it now unless more information gets discovered and new evidence evolves from it, and then she'd have to go back and start all over again with a 974.06.
I think she has a year. I think once a lawyer discovers something, whatever, I think she has 12 months to get it submitted. I think that's right.
And that
Could
means
be
because
wrong.
you got to have some time to develop, like you just said. You want to be able to vet this
Yeah.
and make sure that it's real before you bring it to the court and go, "Oops, sorry, I guess it wasn't that good." You know what I mean? And I think that's why I think a year is an appropriate time as well. I think it's a fair amount of time for you to develop that evidence. Hire your expert, have them examine it, see if it's legit, and then present it to them. I mean, I think that's kind of how I feel. But next
Well,
question, or go ahead, Jack.
it
Go ahead.
well, it just the anyone that's watched Perry Mason, the Perry Mason moments, they just don't happen.
They just don't exist like we see on
No,
TV. Are
no,
you telling me I can't believe everything I see on
no,
TV?
no. Well, you can watch Perry Mason and get in that world if you want, but don't apply it to real law. It's just
Okay.
not going to work out.
Well, by the way, if you guys like court cases, I opened a new thread on our Discord, and I post there's this game called You Be the Judge, or Judge for Yourself, and so I think and so there are like little court cases. On one side of the card gives you the court case brief, and then on the back side tells you the verdict. So you have to guess which way the court. So if you guys are interested, I post usually one about new every day. So it's kind of a fun little thing to do. Join the Discord if you're interested. I got one for you guys from TTM. Do you think judges from other states are laughing at Judge Suckett? This is a reply. To be honest, TTM Fangirl, I don't think judges from other jurisdictions even pay attention to it, because I think they're so busy doing their own cases that unless it's like a groundbreaking case that may change case law or something really interesting, I don't think they would even. But that's just my opinion. I'm not a judge. I've never been in it, but that's my take on it. What do you guys think? Do you think other
Can I
people?
just quickly? I'll have my opinion because then I've got to go. So I'm just going to say goodbye to everyone now. Thanks for having me. I'll speak to you guys all probably on open mic with Foul Play with Trav. But I don't think so either. I think actually I heard quite the opposite. I've heard that they a lot of judges are all in not cahoots with each other, but they're all have their own little lunch board, and they big gossipers, and they kind of talk amongst themselves. I'm not saying, because it's so speculative, I'm not saying that that's what they're doing in this case, but if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if the conversations are like, thank fuck I don't have to worry about this case, because it is messy. And it's Kathleen Zellner. She is a force to reckon with, and I don't think anyone would want to have to challenge her, frankly. But anyway, I'm off, and I got to go, and I'll talk to you all later.
Right, thank you very much, Kel. We'll see you soon, and unless you guys have a comment to add, we can kind of address some more of these questions. Jack, we haven't really had a whole lot of time for you to pipe in, but it came a little late, so I don't know if there's something that's on your mind you wanted to address yet. We'll move on.
Well, I was a little surprised she pulled Brendan's name into it. I was, because there were, I actually looked at, and I can't tell you exactly what page it is, but early kind of in before Stephen's trial began, there were discussions, about replacing Brendan's name and getting it removed because of legal whatever. And so it was, I think, decided that Brendan's name was substituted. They used another instead of Brendan Dassey. It was another, and acting, but overall, really, Brendan really wasn't talked about in Stephen's trial. And, as we all know, Kratz's famous words, one man and one man alone did this crime. And I don't know. I was just a little surprised she pulled Brendan into it in the way that she did. Now, she wasn't wrong. Yeah, I mean, the Seventh Circuit, did come along in the en banc and shoot down everything else that had happened prior, and upheld the confession. But I think we all know I certainly have what I feel is just the biggest load of crap I've seen in many cases that I've looked at. It was terrible what they did. But it is true. So they did uphold it. Still, I was surprised that she brought him into this her decision.
We got a question here. Has Casey from Allie's softball life? I hope you're hitting home runs, Allie. Has Casey spoke to who the call from TS was transferred to, and that is Sergeant Sanglaub. And I believe that's why she wanted a hearing. I believe she probably would have called him at a hearing had she gotten one and said, "We want to talk to Sanglaub because that's the guy who was transferred to." And this brings up some issues with me about cross-examining Senglaub and his reliability. We have a lot of recordings of Senglaub, of Remaker and others, and what was the other guy? Todd Herman, sitting there just ragging on Senglaub about how he's incompetent and he never takes notes. And to say that he did it on purpose, you purposely buried this phone call when we have other officers explaining and basically swearing about him, about how he's such an idiot.
Won't make a decision.
Notes. Yeah, he says make a decision, and he says take notes. Take a note. If you don't want to go out there, leave it for the next guy. He'll, or wait for some, So there are some issues with Sanglaub's reliability as someone who takes the phone, and so that would be hard to get over. But I don't think she's spoken to Sanglaub. I don't think Sanglaub would talk to her, and I think the only way he would talk to her is if he was forced to by subpoena. In my opinion.
I would completely agree with that. All of it.
All right, on to the next question, unless you guys got something to add. If there is one, I'm just still searching here. So I'm glad you guys have so many questions. Sorry that it's taken so long to kind of get to all of them. Here we go. Here's one for you. Does it matter if it was Candy saying swang that and not a Steve? Okay, I think that was something we were talking about before, and I can't remember the context. Do you remember, Ziggy, what we were talking about with the Candy saying? Does it matter if it was Candy saying that and not a Steven? I kind of don't understand the comment because it's a little out of context after we've passed that discussion. But if you know what they're talking about, go ahead.
Oh, Kelly just said about a call between Candy and Brendan.
That's right.
He was bringing up, and again, not defending Candy by any means. But Kelly was pointing out that at that time Steven was blaming Earl and Candy, so Candy was kind of giving some ammo to Brendan, I guess, about how bragful Steven was with his money, his incoming money.
So here's a question: could an appeal be granted due to Judge Ange erroring in just one ruling? I think the error would have to be a major error, like you really got something wrong, like it's so egregious that it can't pass kind of error.
Have to be probably a constitutional violation.
There you go.
Or something, like really bad. Maybe not even approaching a constitutional violation, but even a Wisconsin state constitution violation. But yeah, going this comment about Candy, and I'm not going to add too much, but you got to understand anyone that doesn't.
I know you could though.
Anyone that doesn't understand her actions, I mean, and we'd have to get O-Dog on here to give us the more exact dates, because I don't know the exact dates of a lot of these calls. He's ran a lot of them down pretty tight, but at the same time, these are phone calls after Candy has really screwed Brendan over. She really hammered him.
Very true.
So these are anywhere from a few to several months later, and the events that happened, because Brendan was talking to Marie sometimes, talking to Kayla sometimes, and all of a sudden, boom, that got ended. He couldn't talk to either one. But there were, Candy, she had done some other shit too, but of course, all this other stuff that she had done, calling Fassbender, alerting him about these alleged text messages on her computer between the girls and Brendan. I I shake my head and a lot of other things behind my back towards that woman or over what she did because it's just unthinkable because of her hatred of Stephen. And I guess she's, whatever she felt like happened between Marie and Stephen. I get that. At the same time, now you drug this cousin kid into it, and he's screwed for the rest of his life unless something. Well, basically, he's screwed for the rest of his life at this point because nobody, even if he walked out the door tonight, I'm not saying his life is necessarily over, but how do you get back all these years? And you can't. There's no rolling it back. You don't get time back. It's gone. Anyway, I've rambled on about that more than I meant to, and I apologize
No,
for
no,
that. But
it's
I start
totally.
thinking about the shit that she did, and I get really hot, man. Really hot.
Yeah. But a question: is Candy still married to Earl? I'm almost positive they're divorced.
Oh no. They've been divorced.
Yeah,
No.
for a while.
Long time. Long time.
Well, I think we're actually caught up to all the comments, which I didn't know if we were ever going to get there, guys. But yeah, um, we're in a tough position here, and how do we find the next way forward? You know what I mean? What to expect? What is going to happen in this case? And at least we have this first step behind us, frankly. And I think it took longer than we expected. Unfortunately, I believe that this, when she does file her appeal, we're looking at another long wait like that. I don't think it would be coming to us in 6 months. I think it's closer to the year mark on that. But that's just me. Again, this is just from what I hear from lawyers. I'm not a lawyer.
I mean, considering, I think that, I mean, personally, I think that this decision, I mean, not knowing her schedule and so forth and so on, and maybe what she was trying to get on paper, she just couldn't, get it formulated. But I would have thought that, by the time, maybe no more than a month ago, she could have had this reply. Again, I'm not a judge. I don't deal with what she deals with. So I really figured it would be June. That's what I said way back. I think I said June or July, but um, I really felt like it'd be more towards the June timeframe. And here we are in basically late August. Birthday coming up soon. Woohoo!
That's always exciting to have another one of those.
That's right. I stopped counting, but I stopped
Right.
counting, but I'm celebrating. Yeah, I'm celebrating the birthday anyway. So
That's right. Oh, cake is cake, man.
Yep.
Well, yeah, happy birthday to Big Jeff out there for sure. I think he's down enjoying a little vacation time. I think I saw a cabana in a picture, maybe. With a big cooler next to him. So I hope
Yeah,
Big Jeff
that just has sandwiches in it. Don't even go there. It's just sandwiches,
just
okay?
sandwiches, I bet.
Yeah, probably
There's
coleslaw
a
stuff you got to keep.
huge cooler for a couple sandwiches, but you believe what you want to. You believe what. But Big Jeff will be. I think he'll be back with us. In 2 weeks, and we talked a lot about on to the next, and this is the place where we can talk about other cases. And I know Big Jeff, he really wants to talk about I think is it the Idaho 4? Is that right? The Idaho 4. And so that's another case that we want to talk about.
Koberger. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Kohlberger. That one's an interesting. It's an interesting thing.
There was a thing today that got. I think I saw it on The Law You Know. I don't know how many people out there watch him. I really like him. He's really straightforward and really good to explain. I mean, there's a lot of them out there that are good, but he talked about this Koberger. I guess he's saying basically he doesn't want a speedy trial.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing that he's, and these are the legalese games that you play when you're, in defense mode, and
Sure.
you're trying to block everything all the time. And I get that, like, that's a strategy that you don't want to give an inch, because if you give an inch, they take a mile, kind of thing. So,
Yep.
but that's a really interesting case, and there's a lot of cell phone stuff involved in that, and that's where Big Jeff's expertise really comes into interest, where they tracked him. He was under surveillance and stuff. Anyway, so not to get too on to another case, but I yeah, I agree. And so yeah, we're not gonna. Thank you, Rhonda. I agree with that. It's just not the place to accuse Barb of anything. So I'll put you on timeout if we do that. Please be respectful out there, guys. No accusations towards other people in chat. You have a right to your opinion, but if you really want to make comments like that and accuse people, go over on X, go on Twitter, go on your fake book or whatever you do, and have at it. But in my space, I'm gonna ask that you guys, please respect each other in chat. I'm kind of a zero tolerance to that. I've been teaching for a long time. I've had that kid in the back of the room that wants to say stuff like that's just inappropriate or off cuff. I kick him out of class. I fail him. I'm a no nonsense guy. So I would just ask that you please be respectful, even if you think the killer is in chat. Okay. Even
Well,
if you
it's
think
a
crap is in
it's
chat, be
it's a
respectful.
it's a zero sum game, right? If you're not, you get absolutely nowhere with anyone if you just attack them, and especially in this forum. We're
That's right.
not we're not in the ring, or the cage where it's a cage fight. That's not what
That's
this
right.
is. It's never
It's
been
not
that for me. But other
right.
people, I view it that way. I get the passion and the anger. I get it. At the same time, we're all people, all of us here. Respect.
Right.
I can't agree more. That's
Right.
why a lot of times, especially when I start talking about, you know, a Kaczynski or an O'Kelly. I mean, I'll go so far with it, but I'll typically stop at this point because it's really a zero sum game. It's my anger because of I know what they did, but I can't get anywhere with it. It's so
That's
I
right.
couldn't agree.
It ends
I
up
couldn't agree
becoming your
more.
baggage, right? Right, Jack? It becomes
It,
your
that's
baggage. Right.
that's right. It's
Yeah.
it's it's free headspace for them, free rent, and I'm not getting. I gave them enough.
Yeah. And I tend to agree. Like I said earlier today in this live, that I'm telling you, if you look at the 50,000 foot Big Jeff kind of a view of it, like he says, and you just say, like, just let the chips fall where they may. Who would you bet in Vegas? And I just go back to, I put my bet on law enforcement. They're the ones that benefited from it. They planted the key. They planted the bullet. These things are, like, at least in this community, are pretty undeniable at this point. They're the ones that said, "Hey, Cohen, can you put her in the house, in the garage?" Right? Like, that's the corruption that we should be focused on. And I
And hey,
agree.
Yeah, that's right. And hey, Sherry, you control all the swabs. Do
Right.
what you need to do, and no one can catch you. You're working right there alone at your workstation. No one can catch you. You're good. You're golden. And I think that's a really dangerous. Hey, look, I feel certain solid in saying that I can sit here and say this is not the only two cases that this kind of fuckery has happened. Pardon my French.
Right.
Yeah,
Hold squad.
and that's the hard
Like
part,
just
isn't it?
talking about it. But yeah, no, that's what I started to say earlier, that um I think that's I mean, yeah, law enforcement, and you're bringing it up too with Culhane, and you've got Eisenberg with the balloons, and you've got um, Fassbender, giving instructions, and that's where I almost think that Beauty and the String was, they were attacking law enforcement, but they kind of stopped with Lincoln Coburn, which, and I think that's the same thing that is kind of happening a little bit with Zellner and Bobby. I mean, you can make a theory and you can make it kind of fit, but it kind of falls short. And following, like reading with the crew and stuff like that, I think if I don't know. I think there's so much corruption in this case that it's hard to connect all the dots in that. And I feel like Jost and some of these others that were never mentioned. I mean, I like Soapman when he says, like, how many of y'all followed for 8 years now and never once Jost didn't cross your mind? Well, that's a great point.
Well,
But part of that goes back to Beauty and the Strength, because Beauty and the Strength didn't bring him up either. He brought up Colburn and Link, and then he started looking, and I mean, you need some of these players to kind of, you need a
he
little
was
bit of
under the
Fassbender.
he was under the radar, and it's not that I didn't pay attention to Jost because he was the
Well, he
one that
found him.
allegedly found the
Right,
bone, right? And then
right.
he goes and gets Sturdivant and all, Sipple gets involved. They make these phone calls. So yeah, I kind of knew, but this depth of what he did just on that one day on the 7th is mind blowing to me. It's absolutely and it wasn't, not necessarily that he was on duty for 16 hours. It's what he did during those 16 hours. It's really shocking. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts.
Right. No, exactly. I mean, I agree. I mean, Fall is it's
And
very
I'm still
interesting.
waiting patiently to hear back from MTSO about the things I requested. I'd hoped that would get something today, but didn't hear anything back. So maybe next week, if I don't hear anything from Major Cummings, I'm going to drop him a line and say, "Hey, dude, how's it going? How we doing on that my?" Well, it's been a couple of weeks, and I've really tried my best to maintain a really cordial tone with Major Cummings because he seems to be pretty forthcoming, considering that within 3 weeks or a month after Larry Ledvana retires, all of a sudden there's 23 more CDs, DVDs found of phone calls and radio transmissions. What?
Yeah.
Well,
And
what?
I do appreciate the research into Lavina too. So I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead though.
No, no,
He's
no, no.
always
Go
in.
ahead,
Yeah, he's
please,
in. Well,
please.
no, he's interesting to me because I mean, it's just, what is it? His father-in-law. I mean, they I guess, I mean, Lavina, he could have reason to hide evidence in that. Maybe it does link back to his family in a sense. Who knows?
Well, now wasn't
He was
he
married
married
to Schindler,
to a
daughter.
Schindler? Yeah,
Yeah, the daughter of the one that's actually in prison or was for his
and that's
sex crimes and shit.
yeah, that's yeah, okay. Well, the Schindlers. I mean, they got a whole. That's a whole other history in Manitowoc. A lot of people don't know that,
Right,
but
right.
there's a lot of these Schindlers. Isn't it Terry Schindler? That's one of them.
Terry's the one that owns he died, but he's got the roofing or siding company or whatever. And then, but then his brother Robert is the one that,
Robert. Yeah,
yeah, he's the
yeah,
one that. But his daughter's married to Lavinia.
yeah,
I mean, it's like what?
All these, if
yeah.
you keep talking about these family connections and this stuff, if you keep saying it, I think 3 times, Calf might show up.
Oh, Will Beetlejuice her ass in here. There's no doubt.
Because I heard the Schindlers, I'm not sure. They live over, where did they live again? She's got to be able to hear me. Come on, Calf. Come on, Calf.
Well, get her and Sherilyn Pontello talking, and that's it. We're done.
That's it. Yep.
Well, the reality is, if I had time, I would really like to sit down with those two and create even if it was just a PowerPoint to put in order this whole family. Because again, this is, not to confuse the two. There are some connections here, but this is a whole other family in Manitowoc County that there's serious legal problems, man. I mean, bad. They
Oh,
go back.
absolutely. And they found
Yeah, go
non-res
ahead.
martinis in one of Terry's trailers.
That's
Um,
right. That's exactly
and
right.
you can almost connect them to the zippers because I mean, again, they're both construction and I think
Yep.
it's what zipper
Yep.
was framing houses and I mean, if you understand how the construction business works, usually you don't have one construction company that builds the house, puts the shingles on, puts the siding on, all that kind of stuff. So they work um, together. You get a roofing company to put a roof on, you get a framing company to put the frame up, concrete company to pour the concrete, all that.
Right.
So
Electricians come in, HVAC,
yep,
plumbers.
yep, they all come in. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But Ladvana, I mean, I don't
he's
know,
married
man.
to the daughter. And I'm not trying to say
He-
that his daughter is a criminal by any means, or his wife. I think being his wife and whatnot. But boy, his in-laws are something else. I'm telling you.
they've definitely had definitely had their day in court many times over. There's no doubt.
Yes, yes, many times over.
Hmm.
I mean, because it was
So,
like,
but
It sounds like people are liking your idea, Jack, of doing all these connections. So we'll have to Beetlejuice this meeting together and make that happen with a PowerPoint or something where we can.
I tell you, it's crazy. I mean, I intentionally never jumped into the rabbit hole that they got into because they got into
So
some really deep ones.
it's hard to keep it straight. That's why I
If
go
you
to the
don't,
first second level and I'm already confused.
yeah, if you don't, that's what I'm saying. If we don't have, I get confused too because there are other people, not only just the Schindlers. There's another family or two that have had some serious legal issues, but there's a lot of these connections that because Avery Dassey case that kind of overrides everything, so you don't really see the other uh, bigger or some of the big legal problems that people have had and other crimes and so forth. And there's been some pretty bad ones because this other shit just overrides it, just because of uh, the cases and how far we went with it and other people. So yeah, it can get confusing, and there's a lot of well, I've said it a million times. It's the only other way better to say it than these Peyton Place connections. Everybody's kind of related in kind of some way. It seems like either by blood or by marriage.
oh, absolutely. It's easy to, and that's why I think a lot of some of these conversations, not ours, of course, but other people's. No, but they kind of get sidetracked a little bit because, and they get, and next thing you know, you're like, you're in northern Wisconsin trying to connect back to Green Bay, and it's like, wait, how did we get there? And because I've
Right.
had these conversations with Calf and others for years, and it's like,
And you're
and I just
lost.
get
And you're
lost.
lost.
But
Yeah.
with the case of the Schindlers, I mean, you can connect the Schindlers to and Zipper to Martinez, and of course, very easily. I mean, it's like very easy to do it. And then, of course, Teresa went to Zippers, before or after Stevens. So, I mean, I don't know. And then you bring, neighbor James Farrell into it, and it's like a whole nother ball game. And that's where I need Calf or Sherry Lynn or somebody like that to come in and start connecting all the dots because at that point I just get lost. But I can get that far though. I can follow that. I can like wait. Teresa went to the Zippers, right? Okay, yeah, no, I'm following you. I'm following you.
Right.
Then
But
some of the other cases that also, I mean, just real quick to add, some of these cases that they're connected to also have, I don't want to say similar corruption, but suspected similar corruption. And then that's
sure.
when you're really like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's craziness,
Well,
craziness.
and that gets me thinking about records custodians and their responsibility. I'm not going to get off into that because I'll get mad again because of so many requests that I've made personally, and it's like you get these just like terrible responses. It's like, what are you telling me? So anyway, just talking about Lieutenant or Major Cummings, I've tried to keep this really civil, cordial relationship with him, and I can't remember the lady I talked to there. I don't remember if it was Angela or God, I can't remember. She's really nice too, though. So um, hopefully, with the things I've requested about Jason Jost, we'll have something. I don't know, maybe new, maybe not. I don't know. He's had it for several weeks now, so I would suspect at this point, if there's nothing, he would have already told me. I don't have anything. He's been really pretty straight with me. There was another thing that I asked for from him, and it was in connection with the 2003 investigation that Deb Strauss and Amy Lehman did that Peg Lautenschlager ordered after Avery was released. They got assigned to do this investigation into Manitowoc County, and they're talking to all these different people. Well, anyway, some point in late September 2003, Deb Strauss and Amy Lehman were given this cassette by, I don't know if he was a detective, I think he was, but whatever, Detective or Officer William Beck. and I'm sure he's retired at this point, but he was given this. They were given this cassette, whatever the hell it is, and I didn't know anything about it until I read this report. And then at the one of the last parts, and I got all these reports out of from the Coleman v. Netflix cases. You guys probably have heard me say a couple of times now. It was an exhibit. All these various reports that Amy Lehman and Deb Strauss did in talking with these various officers and so forth during this investigation. Anyway, Deb Strauss turned in a report, one of the last ones, that said that she returned this cassette in April of 2004 to this detective or Officer William Beck at MTSO. I thought, okay, it's we're looking at 20 years old. I know it's an outside shot, but I'm going to request and see if they by chance got it, right? You never know. Maybe it's stuck back in the safe somewhere and I can get a copy. Because I really want to know what was on that cassette because we never found out what's on it. So anyway, I made this request and I copied everything that I had that was relevant, the DCI report or this DCI investigative report thing that, anyway, within, I don't know, probably 3-4 days, he sent me this Major Cummings sent me an email, said that he had thoroughly checked and they don't have the cassette, and he went ahead and called the DCI and they checked and they don't have it either, a copy of it. So he saved me a step because it would have taken me months to have gotten anything from the DCI. They won't. It's crazy. It would have taken months. So he saved me a step.
Well, that was nice of him, I guess.
And got an answer within
Oh,
got an
wait.
answer within got an answer with just in a few days. He was very responsive, and that's in dealing with Calumet County the way it is right now. I can't even get a response from him at all. It's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yep, it is. So I think we put Jeff to sleep. Where you at,
We
Jeff?
Yeah,
must
Where'd you
have.
go?
I'm just listening, they say you're going to learn more listening than you are talking. So I was just enjoying the conversation. Um, yeah, it's a tricky one of those tricky situations. It's that nobody wants to be where you are, but I think we have to keep our wits about us a little bit and say it is really hard to get a post conviction case even just in front of a judge. You know what I mean?
Yep.
This is really an uphill battle, guys. It is only the smallest of smallest percentage of cases are actually successful, and when you're gonna be a part of a case that is like this, we heard the stats, and on average, this is the average, 15 years to
That's right.
overturn false conviction. And if
That's
that's
right.
the average, that means there's a lot that are a lot longer. Yes, some of them are faster. I doubt you're overturning a conviction in 1 or 2 years or even 5 years. So it's a long and slow, and there's no guarantees. And I know that's frustrating, but we just need to be clear-eyed about it, I think.
Yeah, I watch a lot of like true crime kind of programming, and like one of them People Magazine investigates. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or not, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
sort of several. I watched one last night, and I
I
know
think
I've
I
heard of
watched it
this
too.
case. Yeah, I know I've heard of this case before, but it's been a while. Anyway, basically, this case, he was Jeff. You mentioned length of time somebody's gets put in jail and wrongfully convicted in jail, and this guy gets accused of killing his wife. Now, I'm going to tell you right at the outset, he didn't do it, and he had witnesses of where he was at prior to and so forth. Well, for whatever reason, the cops go after him. And meanwhile, the actual killer, still part of the community and blah, 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 done some other things. I'm not going to get into the long and short of it, but it ends up that the police withheld information Well, I'll tell you specifically what it is. The cops did their investigation, and then they guess they weren't really satisfied then, and they wanted more forensic evidence. So they were actually given a second warrant and allowed to go back into the house. Well, they supposedly took 132 photos, right? Wrote the reports up and so forth. Well, it comes time to trial. All of a sudden, no one can find the photos. They've been lost, right? These photos are nowhere to be found. Yet, the jury and judge and everyone says, hey, you need to believe what the cop says. Believe what he's telling you, right? And the cop's saying, oh, yeah, we sprayed the luminol and this whole area just blew up and it was glowing. And he makes all these really strong statements. Well, the guy gets convicted of this. So anyway, his defense attorney, he was there were some other things that happened too that were really pretty weird from the prosecutor's things that she did. Well, anyway, the guy I can't remember the exact time frame. It wasn't like decades, but it'd been a little bit of time. His defense attorney, he's working on his appeal. He goes into the office one day and mail gets delivered, and he gets this package. It's got a DVD in it, and it's got 120, 132 photos that allegedly did not exist at trial, and it showed virtually no glow in these photos. So, number one, the cop perjured himself. They did some more investigating and found out that the prosecutor's office had seen this DVD numerous times because it had been signed out. They found these documents, chain of custody. They had seen these photos. It was a mess. Anyway, the guy got released. It's crazy. I actually should record that one and post it. It's a
Yeah,
really
that's
good
not the one I
episode.
watched last night, but I'm gonna look it up now. That I think just Rhonda's saying it's the Pam Strep case, perhaps.
I think that's right.
Because I watched the I-70 Killer, and then I started to watch the Girl Scout one, but I fell asleep.
I
And then
can tell
People
you here just
investigates.
can tell you
Yeah,
here just in a
but I think that's
minute.
what Steven needs too, though. That's what I mean. I like Duke's is saying just keep investigating, because I do think that's kind of the key to Steven's release at this point. Unless Sawinski and the Denny argument works with the Court of Appeals, which it could. I wish Kel was still here because she never did answer my question, but that's all right. Or not really my question, but her opinion, I
Oh, I
guess.
feel certain that uh, there's material that we don't have that could is relevant and could probably get them both out.
Oh yeah, no, I do too. Absolutely, absolutely.
Um, Actually, the lawyer that's in this case, this guy's lawyer, this defense attorney, he actually wrote a book, and I actually got it. I grabbed it on Audible last night. Haven't listened to it yet, but I really like this lawyer. I think it was her name though, Pamela Struck. She actually she had breast cancer and went through chemotherapy and mastectomy and all that and was past it. Then period of time she was cancer free. Then she got cancer again and she was actually dying. I mean it was taking her slowly, but she didn't have too much more time left. Well, I
Yes.
can't find my. There it is.
What are you looking for there, Jack?
My Audible folder. Name of this book that I.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's interesting, BZ. There's some, I think I started mentioning it a little bit in the, I feel that there's a little bit of a story behind the key, and it's one of the projects I've been looking at. So I'm not trying to tease you guys or whatever, but I'm going to be hopefully presenting what I feel happened with the key pretty soon. I know we also got another project going on with the 48 hours, and we want to give you guys some updates on that too. And we are working on it, but um, I do want, and not as I said, I'm not trying to tease you guys, but yeah, look for that coming fairly soon. I really want to do a deep dive in the key. And
Yeah,
just like Duke said, oh, go ahead, Jack.
this book is called Bone Deep, and it's the Betsy Ferrara case.
Okay, interesting.
Faria case. Yeah, Bone Deep. Anyway.
Very cool. Yeah, because BZ is an interesting one, like Duke Juke is saying. There's a couple items in this case that are really quite interesting.
Oh
Law
yeah.
enforcement covered up their own. Let me see what Barb's here. Barb Koenig. Law enforcement covered up their own in the Ricky Hochstetler case. It was the police banquet that night. Now the city limits. Years later, it come out. It was one law enforcement that did it. You know, again, this is not an accusation of any person or organization, but there seems to be some credence to what Barb is saying here about that case, and that is a really interesting one, tied closely to Pagel, and not quite sure. There's a lot of really strange things that happened in
Not
that case.
Poggle, Kosoric.
So Pagel comes forward. I swear to God, it was Pagel. Unless I have to reread
Oh yeah,
it.
about a Suburban that he gave
Yeah.
or sold to a stripper, even though she had a day job, and I don't even think she was stripping anymore. But
he thinks that the parts that were found in that case remind
Yeah,
him of a
could
car
be
that
his
he
old
used to
Suburban.
drive, but he had sold that car to this woman who turns out to be a stripper. This is Pagel.
Not turns out. No, not turns out. Turned out. I think it. Correct me if I'm wrong. It turns out she was a former stripper, but he said, "Oh no, I sold it to the stripper."
Right. And then when it was like, hey, well, where is this vehicle anyway? It's nowhere to be
Yeah,
found.
they couldn't find it. Right.
You can't find it. It's
Colburn. He sent Colburn to look for it too. It was Andy Colburn that he gave the tip.
Well, Colburn's still working on the report for that, guys. Okay.
Right. He is.
He's
He is
still working
indeed.
on that report.
No, for those who haven't heard it, I don't know where to find it even anymore, but you can find it on YouTube somewhere. When Deb Hochstetler went and recorded with Colburn, and Colburn's trying to blame it on a dead guy or a taxi driver or I don't know, and that left town or something like that. I can't remember, but he had two prime suspects in that case that don't even make really a whole lot of sense. But it was very interesting conversation, I felt. And it used to be on YouTube, and it probably still is. I just don't know what channel to send y'all to find it. You know what I'm talking about, though, right, Jax?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing about the Hostetter case is that there was a CD or DVD of calls. I don't know if I've ever talked about this before. I tried to get it. I think there's probably close to 20 calls on this CD, and I requested it from Manitowoc. You have to understand that these are a number of individuals that they had talked to, and there's 4 or 5 that I think are detailed as having calls on this report about these calls on this CD. 4 of them are dead. Okay, they're gone, and there's no, even if they were guilty, it doesn't matter. They're gone anyway. But they wouldn't let me have it, citing it's still an open investigation. I'm like, it really isn't open at all. I mean, I guess technically it is, but I don't know of anything you guys are doing about it. You should give other people a chance to take a look. But they wouldn't let me have it. Because I think it's going to remain an open investigation until forever.
Yeah, I mean, who's gonna, and what is left to investigate? That's the problem. Unless they get a real tip, it's open and it's waiting. But you'd need something to come, someone to come forward, or some evidence, or
somebody that's interested in looking truly, beating the bush. Yep.
Well, usually we play some calls or something. You got any call? You got a call handy there that you're interested? I had a question about one, Jack. Maybe you could tell me what this is before, so I don't have to listen to it, or maybe I do want to hear it. And let me see what that was. I'd never heard of it. It's again, I'm going to the which is a great playlist, guys. I'm gonna drop it in the chat right now, and this is Paul Plays.
Oh, the key
What's
calls.
key calls, and I think you guys should study the key calls because there's just so many good things going on. What was the one? The guy named Pebbles? You remember this one? Some guy named Pebbles or Peebles?
I remember the Peebles, but I don't remember the content. Been too long since I listened to that. Play it. I don't remember. I remember the name, and but
Who's
that's
sitting on
really
ashes? He's sitting on ashes. Okay, well we'll play this one because I've never. Oops, I got to go back now. I mean I've never heard it, and if it's been a while for you, then
Definitely been a while
yeah,
for me. I don't remember the
months
content either.
since I've listened to this call.
Okay, here we go. Dispatcher talking to a guy named Peebles who is sitting on ashes. I mean, whatever that means, yo, right? Okay, let's find out.
Amateur Spurt.
Yeah, this is Hebo. Somebody just saw me?
Hebo. Yeah, I was wondering, are you guys 1042?
No, we're waiting to leave.
Oh.
Where are you at?
That's Sheriff's Department.
No, we haven't been.
21
Oh yeah, please.
Say what? You can't hear it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't muted. Yes, I can hear it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying you couldn't hear it. Okay. There go. I'll back up just a little bit here.
21 and 15-inch hull pit.
They're coming.
Oh, they're coming?
Copy. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was just checking. I wasn't sure if you guys were done at 11 or what time it was.
No, we're done.
What are you sitting on?
A pile of ashes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Boy, how fun, huh? All right, well, just let me know when you guys are done, right?
All right.
All right, thanks, man. Bye.
So he's apparently guarding a pile of ashes.
Yeah, yeah.
MCGP. Oh, thanks, Duke, for that. MCGP is
Manitowoc County gravel pit. Yep. That's right. It's the gravel pit.
Excellent. I had never heard that one, so of course, I just thought it was a fun little thing to listen to that call. You always find something interesting here on this call list, and there's a couple different calls that I'm always interested in, and that is the conference call. And I think it's too long. Maybe we'd have to listen to it another time, but that's one where we really get a lot of interesting information. And I was listening to and maybe I'll make a YouTube video of this for you guys, but I was listening to a Jacobs call, and the Jacobs call is, he's calling the telephone company to try to get information about Teresa's telephone information or her bill, etc. And in the background of this Jacobs call, I can clearly hear Dietering. I can clearly hear Dietering say, well, logic would indicate she went to Avery's first and then to Zipper's. But it's not his call. I'm hearing him over here. Let me see if I can't just pull that up for you guys and listen to that. Talk amongst yourself while I look for this.
Well,
but
there is
an interesting thing to hear.
There's a Reddit post today, and I didn't really read it because I haven't had a lot of time all week, really. But so I just kind of skimmed through it and whatnot. And somebody was making an argument. I have to go back and read it. That Teresa she would have gone a different route than normal from to get to Avery's if she went to Zipper's first. And I found it interesting, but again, I didn't read through it, so I don't know the legitimacy of it. And I didn't recognize the poster either, so either way, I figured I'd go back and check it out.
Yeah,
If
I'm
anybody
not.
knows anything about that, that would be interesting. Because I don't. I mean, she would have gone to Schmitz first. Okay, fine. And then I guess I don't know why she would have necessarily gone a different route from Schmitz, or why how she would have taken the same route every time to Avery's prior to the 31st, or side track to Zippers.
Yeah,
Not really sure.
I'm not familiar enough with the the road and how they
Right.
flow.
Me neither.
But
We
I
need
just
Calf or Jinx or
yeah
something.
yeah I just don't see how she would have taken really that much of a different route after she left the Schmitz to go to Manitowoc. I'm not seeing it.
Well, want to welcome Duke Juke into the panel here. So welcome
What
in there.
up? What up,
What's,
Duke?
what's up, guys?
Hey, what up, Duke? I'm just watching the Lions beat the Panthers, or at least I was. I turned it off.
Nothing more exciting than some Lions Panthers preseason football.
Well, I mean, obviously we want the Panthers to lose a lot this year because we got their number one draft pick, but it's a little bit disturbing to see the Lions do well. So we'll see how it goes. But welcome
Yeah, that is
anyhow.
weird. And I'm from I'm from Michigan.
I know I was throwing that out there for you too, Jack.
Let me tell you, that's weird. See them doing well.
It's preseason. Let's not get too excited.
You're right. Let's not get carried away here.
So
What's going on, Duke?
Yeah, Duke, what's going on? I think you were clarifying some stuff in chat about the gravel pit and the Peebles guide, the MCGP.
Yeah, I wish I could go back and look at my notes right now. I just don't have them handy on me for that call, but I do know that I know who that officer is. I just have to find my notes based on the calls around it and things like that. But I also know for sure that he's sitting out in the gravel pit looking at something, or that's where he was stationed to kind of just sit by and
sitting on ashes.
sitting on ashes till the morning till the guys could come and collect it. So
interesting. So yeah, that seems like, I think, to answer Kelly's question, it says, so he's at the gravel pit guarding ashes. Sorry, I'm slow. Pretty sure you got it. You're not as slow as you think, Kelly. You got it.
Yep.
So here's that snippet of this phone call, and I'll play it a couple times if you guys. And I don't have the closed captions, but I pulled this, just to clarify, from the background of a different call. So I was able to slice out just this part of Detective Dietering talking in the background of a call that he didn't know he was being recorded while Jacobs is on the phone with the phone company. Okay. It's really quick. You're going to hear Dietering say, logic would indicate she went to Avery's first and then to Zippers. Here we go.
Logic indicates that she went to Avery's first and then went to Zippers.
Did you guys hear it?
Oh, absolutely.
Play it one
Clear
more
as a
time.
bell. Clear as a bell. Do it again.
It says she went to Avery's first and then went to Zippers.
Absolutely.
Logic.
Wow.
Logic.
And this is
Okay.
during that conference call, correct? So they haven't actually been to Zippers yet?
No. This is, see, I think they're having the conference call. They may be having this conference call or just talking amongst themselves around the same time. This is taken from a call that Jacobs placed to the phone call. It's just Jacobs on the line with the phone call. And I was listening to it and I could hear somebody in the background really loud. So I put my headphones on and I okay, somebody's talking. I spliced that part out. I boosted the sound and that's what I heard Dietering saying. I think
So what time is that? So does this call after they go to Zippers or before they go to Zippers? I'm just kind of wondering why Dietering's thinking
this
that.
is
For
this
sure she
call
went
this call would have had to have been on the 6th or 7th when Jacobs was doing that.
it's on the third.
It's on the
Yeah,
third,
is it?
man.
Yeah, I remember when Jeff was discussing with us. I feel like it's on the third, but I'm sorry, Jeff. I must have misunderstood that. I thought it was the conference call, which was before Zippers.
Then I'm thinking of a different call with, and you said the phone company. That's what had me thinking, because
Short call. I think you sent me the link, and it was in a like a long list. You know how you have there's a bunch of dispatch calls, and I think you set it up, and that's how I found it, because I was going through some stuff for our project, and I was just listening, and that's
Oh,
how I stumbled upon it. But it's I can dig it up. I have the whole call somewhere if I can dig it up.
no, it's fine. I was just thinking because if you remember, there's another call where Jacobs is running down this fax number, and and to get around having a warrant in hand to get it, he kind of sweet talked his way into getting it through SBC. I don't know if you remember that call or not, but
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I do. Yep.
hmm I was thinking it was that call. I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't remember hearing Dettering in that call, but interesting. Good find, man. Excellent find.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now we need to figure out if it was before or after you went to Zippers.
Yeah, we need the timing because they left for
Maybe,
the zippers at probably around 8:30, I guess, maybe 8:30 or so.
yeah, shortly after the conference call. But it's saying that's why I thought it was during the conference call that you pull that snippet out of. But if it wasn't this conference call, then it could have very well been after you went to Zippers and probably listened to the voicemail and everything else.
Yeah, I'd have to double check too, but I really do think it's after. And I think when they're saying logic would tell us, I think it's because they listened to the voicemail and they've timed things up. They're not guessing here. They're saying logic would tell us. So
Right.
Yeah, interesting. I've always
Yeah,
thought that'd be
I'll have to
a
work and
better
find
argument.
out where exactly that call was, and the date and time. I don't have it in front of me. I can try to dig while we're talking, and maybe I'll get it by the time we're done here. But if not, we can address that again. But yeah, I mean, we're always wondering, when is that moment that they shift from maybe just a straight investigation. I mean, we even hear Remaker say, "I don't think Avery did it." I mean, he says
Right.
that. Now we have
Right.
Dietering saying, "I think Zippers was her last stop." So that
it's
means that
the morning of the 5th.
And let me throw this out there, just because. So I watched Tim Tedious's latest video, and I mean, for those that haven't watched, feel free. It really just repeats a lot of his older videos and that, but there's a snippet in there from Mike Hallbach. Now, granted, it is on the third probably, maybe could be the fourth, but probably the third. And Hallbach's talking to the news, and he says, "Well, we just don't know where she went after her last appointment." So apparently, the Hallbachs, I mean, they weren't, which would be the search party, I guess. They weren't necessarily focused on her work day, but law enforcement, on the other hand, and I get it, um, they were they never really make it past her work schedule a whole lot.
Well, there was a little bit of a, I don't remember if it was a news story or been so long since I've read it just now, but it's flashed in my mind that I think as a reporter said that the law enforcement are looking for anywhere from her last stops up to Green Bay.
Right, yeah. It's on the missing person poster even that she'd gone
Yeah.
to. They were looking Green Bay, and what was the other town that she may possibly have been in? I can't remember. It wasn't Sheboygan, I don't think. Would have been beyond that.
Yeah, I can't remember. But it's
The
also
last,
interesting, about this Jacobs call. It's also interesting to think about. He's the one that allegedly ends up with the zipper voicemail, right?
right? Yes. Yep.
Oh, wait, say again. Who ends up with the zipper? The Jacobs,
Jacobs.
right?
Jacobs. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, he's
According
in
to
charge of telephone stuff. It seems he's on the phone
Acco-
he's like the telephone guy, you know.
According to Dietering.
According to Dietering, Jacobs went back over there on the 6th and got that recording.
Yep.
Or made a recording, whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting that they didn't allegedly make a recording on the third, but Dietering did record the content of it, correct? I can't remember.
Well, he
He
paraphrased it, but
yeah, in his report and that. But they
Mhm.
discuss it in that in the call right before the change of plans call. Remaker and Revere.
So-
I feel like they discussed.
So this is on the 3rd. That's really interesting.
Maybe
That's a
it was
great
just the
find.
time.
It's a great find, JJ.
Yeah, actually, I found the. I think you get. Oh, let me see how I can do this. I have the call, but I'm actually in my editing program here, so I think I can share my editing program, and you guys might be able to hear that Jacob's call in its entirety. So just give me just a second. Just give me just a second, guys, and I'll have it ready. So talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for something right now. You guys, Duke, what do you got going on? Still,
Yeah, Duke, what do you got going on? 'Cause I was going to mute for 2 seconds, grab some coffee. But
Well, you guys know what I've got. I mean, most of you guys know what I've got going on,
oh, I do.
and it is. I mean, it's crazy. I think even starting to put stuff together finally for it. I'm realizing um, how maddening it is. But my focus has been on the remains, on what was found in the burn pit. I just always felt like that was the place where I needed to look. And it's kind of led me down this path of really some key like tag numbers 7923 to 7928 is where I focus my time and my effort, because there's about 1,000 different roads you could take with just those 5 or 6 tag numbers. And so yeah, I if anyone's in like Foul Plays Discord, I kind of put out a little teaser of what my hope is, and that's probably over the next couple weeks. I'll start one way or another presenting on items 7923 to 7928 one at a time because it's so complex, and I'm going to dumb it down and simplify it so that people can understand. And if anyone has questions or they want to ask how I got certain information, I'm happy to share that, but I want to present it in a way where it's easy to follow. And the state has put their things together, and the info that we have is really put together, I think, in some sense intentionally to confuse us. And so I've spent probably a couple of hours almost daily over the past 3 months digging into this. So there's a lot of research and effort behind what I'm going to share, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I think it's intentionally confusing.
Yeah.
I do.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because I think I don't want to say that. Well, it doesn't. It's not that they necessarily. I think somebody does know what happened. I mean, I do feel that way, but not that everybody knows what happened. But I feel that some people that might even involved in the investigation that maybe don't know what happened know that it didn't happen on the salvage yard. So I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are deliberately confusing, like the bones in Stephen's pit, and why they didn't want to talk about the bones in the quarry and the gravel pit,
Right.
stuff like that. Or why they lost the zipper voicemail, for example, and because they had kind of.
I was actually looking for. I got a snippet. Where the hell is it at?
Well, hello,
What you
Calf. I'm not on
told you?
YouTube, so I can just read the comments. I can't write back to you. But hi, Calf.
Yeah. Why aren't you in voice there, Cat? Come on. Come on.
Calf is taking a sick day today.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
really?
So everybody should pity Calf because I think she's having a rough one right now.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, we would demand that you be in here with us, Calf. But we understand you're not feeling the greatest. I'm sick. Oh, well, we got a coughing. Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need people coughing. Thank you. I'm just kidding. I found here this is so I think I'm gonna send you guys the link here. I'll put it in the chat and to you guys here in our private chat. I think this is the link. Oh, Jack, did you have something ready to go?
Well, it's just talking about the zipper voicemail. I just, to add context to kind of what we're talking about, it disappearing, and this list is an exhibit list from Ken Kratz 1 month before trial.
There we go. So that is the, oh, there's the voicemail, Barb's, item seized, voicemail message, zippers, item seized, and the one goes missing.
As
That's
long
right.
as you stay 6 feet away from us, Calf, you can come
Yeah, come on in, Calf. You stay 6 feet.
in.
Okay,
So anyway.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
sent a link to you guys so you can play it on the Fall Play one. I'm just playing this off my editing program because I already imported it and I can't find exactly. Let me know if you can't hear it. I've never really tried to play off of this before, so let me know. But you'll be able to hear what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Can you hear it?
I can hear it. Oh yeah.
Loud and clear.
Okay.
For calling SBC Repair. My name is Katie. May I have the area code and number you're reporting?
Hi, Katie. My name is Dennis Jacobs. I'm a detective with the Sheriff's Department here. I'm trying to get through to your security people.
Oh, okay.
Is there any way you can give me a number or transfer me or something?
Okay, Dennis, do you have a callback number?
Yeah, it's 920-683-4215.
Okay, and you're with what,
Manitowoc County, Wisconsin, Sheriff's Department.
Dennis, is this a number you can be reached right back at?
Yeah, that 920 number I just gave you.
Okay.
That's
Just
my
for
office.
verification purposes, I'll need to disconnect the call and hang up and call you right back, and then I can get you over there, okay?
Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
SBC Security, what's your emergency?
My
So we don't need to play the whole thing, but that's it. And I don't know if you guys could hear, but from my vantage point, I could hear someone talking in the background of the call.
I did.
And
I did
that's
hear it.
Okay. So that's, maybe I should go back and really scrub that and double check that they didn't say anything else, because I think I just got so excited about that one piece that I never did it with the whole call. But that's where I pulled it from in the background there. And I thought, who's saying what? And I you could almost tell that it was Dietering's voice. He has a very unique and distinguishable voice. And that's what I caught on the hot mic, I guess.
This is the call I was thinking about. That he's running down this fax number. So it is that evening. I can't remember what time. I don't know if I can find it.
I sent a link in the private chat if you if that helps, so you can find exactly what I was talking about. But yeah, if they had that after the voicemail and then you can hear them. And I think what's so important and interesting is that he doesn't think he's being recorded.
It says it right here. It says it right here. The time is 20. Well, it's not an exact time. It's 21:15, which is 9:15.
That's right. So they're not the zips yet, though, are they? Or are they? That's like about 5 minutes before Coburn calls the plates. So Coburn's sitting at church waiting for him.
Yeah.
So it's
something
in
like
the
that.
9 o'clock hour, something like that, around there. Here I have
this call span is from 9:15 to 9:59 to right at 10 o'clock. So 9:15 to right at 10 o'clock that night.
And that would be after they got the voicemail?
No, I think it would have been
right about the same time, I guess.
Yeah, but it'd been in that same time frame, yeah.
Because what would give Dietering the indication to say, well, after we have this information, logic would show us that she went to Zippers last. I mean, what would give him that indication, if not for a voice?
Coburn calls in the plates at 9:22. He's sitting in the church parking lot across from Zippers waiting for everybody.
Yep.
Just for time.
That's right.
And then they get to Zippers and they don't get in right away. They're arguing with them through the door, I think. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's when Remaker calls DCI to see if they can tap her phone. Maybe.
Yeah, I can't remember what time he called. I can't remember what time Remaker called to see if they could ping her phone, but it was sometime that evening, I think.
Yeah. Well, because he thinks that she's inside Zippers. I think. At least that's the way I interpreted it.
I mean, I guess
I
it
can't
just, to me, it shows that they were not, maybe not, at least not in Dietering's comment. I don't know if they overruled him in that meeting, but from his point of view, it sounds like they didn't have that, tunnel vision yet.
Not
right?
yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. No. No.
Hey,
not
Travis, nice to see you in the chat. It's great to have you here.
Yet. Oh, Travis is here. Hey, Travis.
Yep. Just popped in. Yeah, very interesting stuff. And I guess that's what you got to keep doing, guys. You got to keep listening to calls and trying to pull out a little bit here and there. But I guess the last thing I'd say on that is just to reaffirm what I said before, and that is Dietering didn't think he was being recorded. He's not saying stuff because he wants to be on the record on the phone saying something. This is what he actually thought. That's how I view it. That's why it's different.
Yeah, but I always like to point that out too, though, from time to time, and this would be one of those instances where, I mean, again, I mean, those calls are recorded, but literally nobody ever thinks that anybody's going to ever listen to them.
But Dietering is not on the phone. He's just talking to the boys.
No, I understand that.
Table.
I think he's talking. I think
at the table, 15 feet away. They're having their meeting, and Jacobs is in the same room okay, you go over there and call in, and we'll do our meeting here. And that's what I think you heard. So it was just a very candid moment that you don't always get in the middle of a meeting, right?
That's what tells me he was actually speaking to someone else and just happened to get picked up on Jacob's call.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to that, and I'm going to listen to it close and see if there isn't anything else we can pull out of there. I don't think there is, but you never know. So, quite interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you guys got any other interesting things to cover, or are we kind of got any? It looks like there's not much going on in chat right now. Calf is sick, and I feel bad about that, Calf. I wish you were here. We really could have used you earlier, but it is what it is.
Yeah, we'll have to get her and Sherry, if we dare, get them involved and start talking about the Schindlers sometime.
Yeah, the Schindlers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got the other Kelly in here as well, Kelly Droster. Hey, nice to see you. Nice to see you in chat.
It's all good, Calf. We'll do it another time.
We'll get you in 2 weeks when we do another one, and I think Big Jeff will be back. Big Jeff's kind of working on something in the background too. He's got an idea for some content, so we'll be excited when he comes back as well. Hopefully, he can make it with us in 2 weeks. Well, we got any other comments you guys want to make before we break off here today, or is there anything that's you feel we missed, or we want to talk about or address?
Well, I'll just say this. I mean, I think when people have the opportunity to wrap their minds around some of the key pieces of evidence in this case, a key piece is obviously the one item that identified and put Teresa Halbach in that burn pit. I think when people are presented something that's going to allow them to comprehend how impossible it is that actually happened, I think it's going to shake things up a little bit. And I'm not saying like this will get to the point where what I'm doing will actually be used. I don't know that. My intent is really just to expose the truth. And I think that I'm going to be able to do so. I wouldn't have been able to say that 6 months ago for sure. But over the past couple of months, I really do feel like what I'm going to expose is going to help a lot of people to make that firm decision of what's actually going on here. Because if Teresa Halbach's remains aren't in Stephen's burn pit, he did not commit this murder. Or
that's right.
He did not commit this murder the way that he was convicted that he committed this murder. And that's important.
Or that. It's very important. Hugely important.
So, the bottom line for me is and always will be. My goal is not to, because I can't. I physically can't. I don't have the capabilities to personally get Steven and Brendan out of jail. I can't do it. I don't have that knowledge, that insight, the legal expertise, all those things. But if I can just expose the truth just a little, I'm going to do so. And I think I'm going to be able to do that. I'm really excited about it.
Oh, I think so too. And I've only seen probably a little bit more than you guys, and oh yeah. But I think that Duke is doing it in the best way by presenting these pieces 79-23 up through 79-28 in the way that he's doing it, because if he doesn't do it the way he's going to do it, it's going to get really confusing, and that we don't want. So I think the way he's going to approach it is the best way.
I think it's the hardest part, isn't it? That is the hardest part, is being able to hit it and explain it clearly. And there's so many nuanced details that
it's like talking about the burn barrels. It's a disaster. Yeah. It's an absolute disaster.
We might as well be talking about quantum entanglement theory at this point. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's right.
It's, which, by the way, is fascinating, and I'd love to talk about that sometime, because I just learned about it, and it's quite fascinating, scientific, wondrous thing. But
I'm going to tell you, in the almost 8 years I've been involved with following this case, not a single person has been able to successfully and admittedly been able to track the burn barrels properly from beginning to end. Not one. That says something, and they should be easy to track. Easy. And they're not.
It's very intentional as to why no one's been able to do that. You know,
Yeah,
not even KZ.
I agree with that.
Did you ever find out why KZ blocked you from Twitter?
No, I didn't. I sent her an email, and I said, you know, hey, if there are some, because what I commented on, the comment that I made was very, very simple. It was talking about one of those item numbers that I've been mentioning, but it was a really simple post. But one of two things happened. Either it was an accident, or there was something about my post that like struck a chord that was like, we don't want anyone to see this right now. I highly doubt that. I do think it was just an accident, but I did send her a note, and I just said, hey, if you want me to shut up about something, just let me know.
Just ask me. You don't have to block me.
But it's all public knowledge. So, or available to the public. But, yeah, I think it was an accident. Otherwise, she just hates me. And, she's a Downers Grove girl, and I'm a Glen Ellen person. It's some Chicago suburbs rivalry, so maybe that's it.
Yeah. That could be it.
I do remember our football team beating up on hers my senior year of high school way back in the day. So maybe
that
that's
a lot to do with it.
I don't know.
That could be it.
Oh, really fun. Yeah, so that's exciting, man. I'll be really interested to see what you want to have uncovered, and I think it's time to throw some cards on the table, as they say, and I guess we got a couple things coming from here too. Like, as I said, I got some stuff in the key I want to talk about, and I think what you bring up a point there, Duke, and that is, maybe I can't do anything. I'm not in the position to, but we can expose what we can find. And if we can find something, maybe it's even procedurally barred. Maybe it's like, oh, you found something, but it's already been ruled on, and they won't rehash it, or something, along those lines. But it's still important for the community to see it and understand it clearly. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see what you've uncovered, as well as other projects that people have working on. So, it seems like we're kind of picking up pace here. There's going to be some stuff coming out, and not to tease you guys too much, but there should be some cool stuff coming soon, you know? I don't know if you guys have any other comments that you want to add or throw in, any other issues from chat. Let's see what Travis said. If she missed something, she doesn't want to know about it. Oh, okay. If she missed something, she doesn't want to know about it. That's what Travis said, and I think in reply to what you to your post on Twitter. I mean, it's just one man's opinion. Travis, we respect your opinion. It's just one man's opinion, and so.
I will tell you this.
I don't want to hear about it. Like, I'm focused on this. I don't want to hear about that,
I will tell you this. As part of what I sent to her and her legal team is about a 17-page document really highlighting my research. And I said to her, if there's something in here that you didn't want me to mention, let me know. But this is where I focused a lot of my time, and here's where my thoughts are. So she's got all that information now. I doubt that she's missed anything. I trust her, and I trust her legal team. They've been on it, and they've got everything. So
you never know, though, Duke. You never know. I mean, it's possible because a lot of times it's forced at sea. The forest in the trees kind of problem. So
and each each piece of this case, and there's 100 of them, if not more, you could look at 100 different ways. So the possibilities are endless. But again, all I care about is what's true.
Yep. Same here.
And all I do is I use their information. I really, really try to stay away from taking big leaps of speculation.
Yep.
If I can back something up with their words, then that to me holds the most weight. And so that's what I do.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yep.
Ziggy, got anything left in the tank?
I mean, it's only 9 o'clock on a Friday, but
hey,
I've got nothing pressing.
Well, I guess we can, kind of wrap up then. We'll see. We'll get to see. I guess in 2 weeks we probably will have seen a brief written up by KZ. There's no guarantee. I think she has 30 days from when she gives her notice. So,
is that correct, Travis? I see Travis still here.
Yeah, maybe Travis.
Is it 30 days?
Is it 30 days that she has after she puts in that notice? Notice of appeal. So we may know by the time we do another episode. We may not know by the time we're back in 2 weeks, but we'll be working in the background to present more. And I'm going to look into those. I'm going to look into that call again, do some more on that Jacobs. And frankly, now I'm like, okay, now I got to listen to calls, but you also have to try to listen to people in the background of calls. Like how this is just, it's overwhelming to try to do something like that, but we'll try. We'll see what we do.
I listen to thousands of calls, but it's worse now. In the wintertime, it's not too bad, but in the summertime, unless I need to put my headphones on, I don't, because my ears just, I don't know about yours, but my ears get on fire, just literally on fire. So and my speakers are okay, but they're, I can certainly hear a lot better with my phones on. So a lot of that background shit, I missed. I mean, I heard something in the background, but I didn't dial it up and say, hey, what did he say? That's a hell of a catch, and it's a great idea. Hats off to you, buddy.
Yeah, let me know if you guys ever hear anything in the background and you're like, I hear someone talking in the background. Let me know, because I can cut it up, edit it, boost the gain or whatever they do.
Blow it up.
Blow it up and then find it. Well, and the thing is like Dietering's got a really booming voice, and I think that was a factor too. That he's like, his voice fills the whole room and you can't miss it. But not everybody has a voice like that.
Yeah, it reminds me of the infamous Colburn in the background saying Teresa Hallbach west of Avery's, right on the 7th, right at Cuss Road. Remember? I think Millbilly cut that.
Was that Colburn? I remember that. It was
Yeah, it was
but I heard
Colburn
that- Oh,
on the
interesting.
7th during Cuss Road incident, and
Right,
he's
west of
saying
Avery.
that Teresa Hallbach. He doesn't say we got. He just all you can distinguish is Teresa Hallbach, west of Avery's,
Right.
such and such.
Yeah,
But
there's some.
that's one that I've isolated. There's another one about a whole bracelet being eaten up by a dog or something like that. There's, I listen to about an hour and a half or 2 hours almost daily of calls. And so, yeah, I've got some clips of
Dang.
background noise.
Dang. Putting it
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Good for you,
I
man.
mean, that's something that's coming, because
Yeah.
I mean, of the new, the 2022 open records requests, I've went through all of those, the calls. I may, before we move on to the Calumet calls, what I may do is check out the radio transmissions. May do that next. I'll check it out. We're going to do one of the others, or we're going to dive back into those one way or the other, either Manitowoc, or we're going to get started on the Calumet. And I'd actually mentioned to Andy B, because he's got the software to do it, because there's so much background hiss and noise in a lot of the calls. Now, some of them are pretty clean, but a lot of them, there's a lot of noise. I talked to him because, Duke, I'm sure anyone that's spent any time with how Zoe and I did the Calumet dispatch calls. We recorded everything because I didn't want anybody to come along and say, well, you cut this out. What else did you cut out? And not having that shit.
Well, I'll tell
So
you
we
what,
record-
and Jack, you can back me up on this, is another thing that I've been clipping, or at least at this point where I'm at, is just kind of identified the times in what video. But there are, I don't know, I mean, at least 20 right now that I've got that are very clearly edited. And you can tell that they're edited because of how they're cut. And that's
absolutely.
so interesting.
It is. It is. There's a lot of these examples. I mean, there are just so many where I'm listening and I'm going, oh, okay, he's talking about this, he's talking about that, and then all of a sudden, hey, what? Now what? That's like a disjointer, right? Like a non sequitur. Like it doesn't make sense. Why is he? All of a sudden, he's talking about yeah over here, and then he's like, and then I was doing, it's like what? Why? There's something definitely missing. I forget what's called. I think it was one of the recent ones that came out, and I was like, just listening to it, I'm like, there's like 6 times in one call that I'm pretty sure that they're messed with it. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, the Tom Pierce calls is a really bad one. They definitely messed with that call. There's almost 4 minutes missing of that one. I mean, I provided, all the links are there. Anybody's welcome to go through and check my math to make sure I didn't hose something up, but I did it like 3 times and actually used a program I found on the web to help me, figure out how much time is actually supposed to be and actually how much actual recording time there actually is. And it's right at 4 minutes gone.
Teresa Hallbach, 193. Is 752 around there, Bushman. I need to get him over here or at least I need to contact him. I got a number for him.
That's that call that we were talking about.
The purpose of this podcast is to advocate.
Yeah, and that was right around the same exact time. I mean, the same general time that who is it from Manitowoc that gets a call from Mark Heron of some news station. He's like, hey, I just ran into Bob Petrosky and he said they just found a body.
Wow.
Oh yeah. He's listening to the scanner and it's like
Bob Petrosky is this kind of big shot in Manitowoc, well-known guy, owns a couple car dealerships and other things, connected with Kachurik, this guy's like, hey, we just heard that they just found a body. And whoever he's talking to from Manitowoc's like, oh, you know more than I do. That's also the same call. He says, and we heard they caught the Martinez guy too, just outside your city limits. So that's a good call to listen to.
Well, folks, unless there's anything from the chat, any last questions or anything, or if you guys have anything you want to still address, we're at about 2 hours, 25 minutes now. So we've been going at this pretty good. We've hit a few things. I always enjoy it. It's really fun for me. And we'll be on to the next again in a couple weeks. And that should be fun too. It looks like Travis said, that the brief will be due sometime in November unless she requests an extension.
Yeah.
Sometime in November. How many days did we say it was? I forget. 30 days from the clerk's record. August, September, October, November. I think it's a little longer than November. Anyway, yeah, we should hear something. And that'll definitely be interesting to see. And, we heard Kel in the top of the hour, or in the first hour, talking about how she really believes that this might be the best brief that KZ's going to write. And because the deck is stacking it up for her in the way that she can bring a lot of issues. And we talked about a few of them on the show. And that was about about how the appeals court had made a mistake, and then she parroted them on that mistake. And so there is a little door opening that she can call them on every little thing, every little mistake that they've made, every error. And that's maybe the expectation from Kel. I don't want to speak for her, but it sounded like she's expecting some high level appeals motion. So, I think that there's a good reason to expect this to really and as Kel said, she may have filed her original motions with the Court of Appeals in mind, because odds are whatever you send to Anne, she's going to deny anyway. So she was writing that for the appeal. So I'm excited to see what she writes and what she comes up with. So hopefully maybe by the next time we'll talk about that. But if not, it'll be a month down the road.
Yeah.
But that's the game.
Yep.
Anything else to add in there, Brian?
Nope. Travis
Jack?
says the clerk record is due on October 3rd.
Okay, 10/3, October 3rd. Very cool.
Is the clerk record. That's the clerk record.
Oh, clerk record is due. I see. So then she has 30 days after 10/3. Am I getting that part correct?
What it sounds like.
Yeah, I think that's right. Jack, anything to add in or wrap up?
No, I'm good, man. Been a good chat.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, and Duke. It's great having you here. We hope to hear from you again and talk about that BZ that you've been working on, among other things.
Yeah, appreciate it. As always, thanks for having me on. And like I say to everyone, and I'll say it every time, if you want to look into the truth, all you gotta do is look yourself, and you'll find it. I promise you.
Nice. Well, thank you for those comments. I think that's a great way to leave us. So for Kel and Kath at home, Brian, Jack, Big Jeff on his birthday vacation, and for Duke Juke, this is Jeff Jones saying this has been on to the next.